Thanks for tuning in live to Proline TV, the Our Football Network, as we start previewing the 2025 NFL season. And our very first interview will be about the Cleveland Browns. Fred Greetham joining us from the OBR. Fred, thanks for doing this again.
Yeah, it's always fun. I mean, I can't believe it's training camp, is upon us. The team rookies report Friday and veterans first the week, and then they're going by this time next week. So, yeah, it just seems to continually, we were just talking about the draft and after the draft, and now we're precipice of the season. I'm sure the reason the Browns, are first on the show because there's so much excitement coming off a 3-14 season.
Well, I don't think that's it. You haven't not had a shortage of stories, though. That is for sure over the last several weeks, actually since the draft. So before we get into the whole quarterback deal, let's start with where we left off things, which was the rookie class. I know a whole lot hasn't happened, or at least it shouldn't happen. You don't want to hear any news. No news is good news after the rookies leave. But when we do hear news, it's usually not good, and that's what's happened with Quinshon Judkins. So what's the latest?
Yeah, I mean, we're really kind of trying to understand, how are the Browns going to deal with this because he's unsigned and he's kind of, I think there's 30 out of 32 second-round picks unsigned right now because of a logjam because of the guaranteed money. And the first pick of the second round was Quinshon Judkins by the Browns, and they gave him a fully guaranteed 4-year deal. And the second pick, I think Higgins got the same thing. So there's been a log jam, and Judkins is only like 1 or 2 places behind that. And I think he lost a little bit of leverage, if not a lot of leverage, with his incident, domestic violence charge. We don't know a whole lot, but what's come out hasn't been good. So I think, other than that, you had Shedeur Sanders got pulled over twice, going over 100 and going over 90 at the end of the rookie mini camps at the very end before they were dismissed. So, you've had off-field stuff. This is the second straight year. I don't know if you realize this, Greg. The Browns took a player from Ohio State in the second round, and both of them, dealt with domestic abuse. Michael Hall was last year,
right. Yeah.
And it derailed his season. He was suspended the first 5 games, and he came back, played like 4 games, got hurt, and then really when he came back, he suffered a major knee injury in the season finale against the Ravens, and we haven't seen him this offseason. He's still rehabbing from surgery. So you could really point to that domestic abuse deal as ruining his rookie year.
Sure.
A lot of that's his own fault. Now, Judkins was going to be a big, big part of the offense. I mean, they drafted him. Andrew Berry hasn't put a premium on running backs. This is the highest asset that he's went after in the draft or free agency. Obviously, they had Nick Chubb, but they decided to move on from Nick Chubb and let him walk as a free agent. He did have some say in that. But the guy you were planning on trying to make fans forget about, Nick Chubb, if Judkins came in and did what he did at Ohio State, and now you might not even have him. And when you look at the schedule, the first 6 weeks are a gauntlet. They play the 3 top AFC or NFC North teams, all went to the playoffs last year, and 3 division opponents. The worst record from last year in those 6 games is the Bengals, and they were 9-8, and we all know they're a pretty good team.
Yep.
So we know what the Browns were planning on doing was going back to the running game, playing good defense, shorten the game, and Judkins was going to be the bell cow back. They did get Dylan Sampson to go with Jerome Ford, but if he's suspended, as been the case in these situations by the NFL, if their investigation shows it, and he's suspended for 5-6 games, you could very well say it could be similar to Michael Hall, that by the time he gets going, the season's already, really well down the road because of those first 6 games. So this to me, I think, is a big story. It might not be around the league, but, with the Browns, I think what they wanted to do, this really throws a major, kink in the armor. And like I said, it just makes you long all the more for Nick Chubb, because Nick Chubb wasn't a guy that was ever remotely in these situations.
No.
And so here you go. And they also have Devin Bush, a veteran linebacker, has a hearing, I think, this Friday. He was involved in domestic abuse charge as well. So, it just seems like chaos continually follows this team. And I didn't see any red flags in any of the research I did on Judkins, coming out of college. But, it's very a big black eye for the Browns. And what are they going to do with it? I don't think they're pressing to try to get him signed before, training camp starts, because now you're like, well, that doesn't look good. Give the guy $11-12 million, when he's in this stuff. So it's really unfortunate all the way around that this is how you're trying to get out of the Deshaun Watson era.
Yeah.
And then, I wrote about this yesterday, and you have this happening.
Well, you think Andrew Berry's learned his lesson for drafting running backs that high? I wonder who the one who was twisting his arm to do it. All right. I'll do it. That guy's probably fired right now. This opens up, I guess, an opportunity for Dylan Sampson, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think he's got a different style. They were talking about him more being a third down back and change of pace, a little smaller, a little quicker. I thought the Browns should get one of the backs from Ohio State. I favored Travion Henderson. They had the choice of both. They chose
the wrong one. Yeah, of course.
And
that's the Browns.
And I can't blame them, from the aspect on the off the field stuff. I don't know if anybody can see that coming.
No.
When somebody doesn't have a background. Like Michael Hall had some concerns in the reports I read last year, character and maturity. But when you have a 21, 22-year-old getting, $10-12 million, who knows what happens. But yeah, it is, it is unfortunate. But Sampson, I do think, is going to be right there. I think Jerome Ford, will be the first guy up. But Sampson, I think, would be in the rotation. It just makes the depth chart. They had Pierre Strong, still have him. He was the third guy last year. And then they signed Amani Marshall, undrafted free agent from Appalachian State. So I think he's going to have an opportunity. I don't know if they'll go out and bring somebody else in for training camp or what they'll do. I do believe Judkins, unless he's not at camp, would be able to practice. That's usually Michael Hall practiced, even though, he was going to be suspended and so forth. So he just can't play in the games.
I know there was a big dust up, as well there probably should have been, when the Browns gave Deshaun Watson all this money. And now we're in this second round guaranteed money deal that, by the way, was started by the Cleveland Browns. So is this becoming a little bit of a bad habit for the rest of the league, that they're like wondering why the Browns keep doing this? Why are they spending our money outrageously? That must be what's on their minds.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I think I read there's something going, some things about collusion, even back to the Watson case, that whole situation, that some of the other owners said, we're not going to do this. I don't know. I haven't followed the second round picks. And I thought some got guaranteed, some didn't. I didn't know this is the first time, if it is, but the chain's going to break somewhere. And the reason the 30 haven't signed is because nobody wants to be the first one to not get guaranteed.
Yep.
And so Judkins very well could be because of this incident, but I don't
That's
know. I
right.
don't know. Browns might not even sign him now until after some of this plays out,
Yeah.
because I don't know all the legal ramifications. First, I read a misdemeanor, $2,500 bond. Doesn't sound bad to me. Then the police report comes out and says, you know, he punched the girl with a closed fist right in the face. Well, that sounds quite a bit different. And so she didn't report it for 5 days. She stayed with it, so it's like, I'm kind of waiting for all these
Yeah.
investigations. I'm sure the Browns are going to check it out as well as the NFL. But it's not a good look anyway. You got this, like I said, no matter how good he does, it's always tainted in the background.
Sure.
You think of Kareem Hunt, he was immediately dismissed. The Ray Rice case, NFL's cracked down, rightly so. But then, it seems like time goes by and people forget about it, but it's always going to be there. So, on the football side of things, I think it's a big blow
It is. Yeah.
to what they were going to do. I think they would have for sure brought back Nick Chubb. They had to decide and feel that he just wasn't going to be anywhere close to the Nick Chubb we all know. But the Texans signed him, and if they, if he breaks out, that's going to make this look so much worse.
Yeah, do you think now, because when we talked about the idea of trading out of the pick for Hunter, and the idea, as you mentioned, could very well have been taking a look at next year's draft, whether it's Arch Manning or whoever, as the first quarterback picked, whoever would be there, that's where the Browns, that's what that trade possibly was for, was to look to the future. And then when you see stuff like this happen, you do get to wonder whether or not, I know the coaches are going to try to win. We're not trying to say they're tanking, but you do wonder whether or not this season is just going to be one of those seasons that is just going to be really just all about maybe developing the young players. And hey, if you wind up with 4 wins, so be it. But that'll give us the necessary draft capital in order to get what we want, and that is a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're heading to training camp, and all the talk has been about the quarterbacks. And I do think that the Browns have to make a decision. They have said all along they weren't rebuilding. That's how they talked Myles Garrett, besides the big contract, into, not trading him. And, you got Denzel Ward, you got David Njoku, you got Garrett, you got all these guys in their prime that you're telling them you're trying to win. And if you throw a rookie quarterback out there, and in the locker room they know they're not ready, you're not telling those guys you're trying to win. That's why I think when it's all said and done, if that's your real goal, you start Joe Flacco to start the season, because 18-year veteran, he's seen it all. They're playing some of the best teams in the NFL in those first 6 games. That's why, first off, I would disqualify the 2 rookies. Unless they're so good in training camp, you can't deny them. But you go with Flacco over Pickett. If you come out of those 6 games 1-5, you might have been 0-6, 1-5 anyway. Then you turn your season to Pickett or the 2 rookies and see what you have the rest of the way. But if you just go out there and throw guys to the wolves, to start the season, I don't know how you are developing anybody, as far as that goes. So
Sure.
it will be interesting. They've said all along they plan to play the best players. And so the locker room knows that. I mean, you can't, a guy like, clearly in the offseason program, to me, Joe Flacco was the most ready. He might not be the best quarterback for more than a few games, but until the other guys get brought up to speed and we see them when the live bullets fly in training camp, they practice against the Panthers and they practice 2 times against the Eagles. That's where you're really going to be able to measure up. Put them guys against those top defenses and see what they look like in a controlled environment, even more so than the preseason games. And then you're going to be able to see who can handle it and who can't. And it's just a lot of decisions because I don't think anybody believes Flacco would be here next year anyway.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody thinks Kenny Pickett will be here next year. Let's say he does a Sam Darnold year and he blows up. Well, he's going to be a free agent. Are you going to give him the big contract, to keep him? Or with those high picks, you're going to say, hey, we're going to draft a quarterback. Or like the Vikings said, well, we're hoping J.J. McCarthy's ready to go and let Darnold walk. And then you never got to see if Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders had anything. So that's why it's just puzzling to me and interesting what they're going to do.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind, too, I mean, these rookies are 3rd and 5th round draft picks. I mean, it's hard for first-round draft pick rookies to go out there and play in the NFL right off the bat. These are 3rd and 5th round guys. So you're right. I just can't imagine that a rookie is going to start day one for the Browns as long as Flacco and Pickett are there. And nothing has changed since the last time we spoke, right? I mean, I don't think anything has changed as far as you just don't know what's going to happen between now and opening day with those 4 quarterbacks, especially the 2 veterans.
Yeah, they maintained the whole offseason. Pickett was pretty much first man up. That's where we'll know when they go out to training camp and start practicing who's going to get the first reps with the first team. And it could change. They've admitted that Flacco doesn't need as much. He knows the offense, and the whole thing. So I expect Pickett, Gabriel, and Sanders to get a lot of the reps in training camp. But at some point, you got to pivot to getting ready for the season. And there's now with the collective bargaining, the way they do training camp, there's not a whole lot of time. Like I said, they start next week. The following week, they're in Carolina playing the first game. And so you're pretty much, have to make some decisions on who you're going to get ready for the September 7th opener against the Bengals. And so that will – they'll start to dictate that by what we see on the field. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if Pickett is still first up in reps, and he could end up being the starting quarterback. And Flacco could just be around for emergency.
Okay.
But I think if they decide that Gabriel and Sanders have shown enough that they feel they have enough potential, similar to Pickett, they would move on and maybe trade Pickett to a team that might lose a quarterback or might need somebody in the preseason. So I think Pickett's playing for a position here, but also possibly for another team. If Flacco wins the job, I think they would look to trade Pickett for sure. Andrew Berry traded Josh Dobbs when he was the backup quarterback to let the rookie DTR. Now, that didn't work out very well, but, I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 of these guys, if they're healthy, are still on the 53-man roster. They might not make it to the first game, but last year the Browns had Tyler Huntley as a 4th quarterback. They kept him on the roster, and then they tried to trade Winston and Huntley. Neither of them could be traded, so they cut Huntley. And then he went to the Dolphins or somewhere and signed, or maybe he went back to the Ravens practice squad or something. But I think they look at him as an asset, and if they feel they could get something for him, I think the most tradable is Pickett. They're not going to trade the 2 rookies. They're going to be on the team, and Flacco is not tradable in his 40s. Most people say, well, he'll be there off his couch again if we need him.
I have a couple minutes left with you. So I'm going to go through these as quick as I can. Let's see. Let's start at receiver. Is Deontay Johnson a real possibility as far as a starter?
I think right now he is, because you got a lot of former draft picks that really haven't done much. Cedric Tillman's the most promising 3rd-round pick. Really had a great 3-game stretch last year. He had like 22 catches, 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards, and then he got a concussion, missed the final 6 games. He's finished the last 2 his both seasons on injury reserve with concussion. So if he can stay on the field, but then you're relying on Jamari Thrash or David Bell or Michael Wood. So I think Deontay Johnson as a golden opportunity to resurrect his career as the slot guy or the third guy. And it just depends on which Deontay Johnson shows
Yeah.
up, the one his years with the Steelers or whatever happened last year when he was on 3 teams.
The top 2 picks in the class went on the defensive side. Do you think, if you had to make a prediction on which rookie will have the biggest impact, will it be one of those 2 guys, or could it be Sampson or even Harold Fannin or someone else?
Yeah, on defense, I think Schlesinger might have the biggest impact because of the injury, unfortunately, to JOK. I think they're counting on him to hit the ground running. And so I think he's going to be learning, but I think he's got a chance to be sideline to sideline beyond the field, in Jim Schwartz's defense. They target him. The last 3 drafts, the first pick in the second round was traded. So the Browns rebuffed offers and decided they needed this guy and they took him, which is uncharacteristic for him. Just like I said, running backs, linebacker is a position they haven't valued very much under Andrew Berry. Other than JOK, everybody has been kind of a lower pick or a free agent. And so I do think he will. I think Graham will help Myles Garrett. So I think both those guys will be counted on to make plays. Just sometimes at defensive tackle, they get lost in the shuffle. But on offense, I do think now Sampson has a big chance. I was going to say Judkins, would be the biggest impact. But Harold Fannin, keep an eye there because we talked about Deontay Johnson. I think they really could look at him as a wide receiver because that's really what he was more in college. Had 117 catches last year to lead the nation. So I think you can, with his size, you can put him outside, and it's a role that I think a rookie could step into, and be another receiver, another weapon on the offense.
By the way, on defense, Emerson, actually, if anybody's going to get traded before the deadline, I know we have a long way to go, but Greg Newsome, with this contract situation, do you think that's a possibility? Do you think he could be a trade possibility, or any other players that you think I know we're a ways away there, but who knows how much time we're going to have to talk before now and then. So if you had to name a player or 2 that you think could be tradable before the deadline this year, who could that be?
I think Newsome would be the most logical. A lot of people thought he would get traded on draft day or whatever. Problem is they don't really have a replacement. Nobody really knows totally what Cameron Mitchell or Miles Harden, 2 other lower round draft picks, are they able to step in? Jim Schwartz needs 3 corners, and Emerson had a down year last year, and Newsome did as well. So he got $13 million as the Browns picked up his 5th-year option. So he's playing for a contract. Martin Emerson is playing for a contract. If they just feel somewhere during the season, the season's over, they get the trade deadline, they might just unload Emerson or Newsome, for whatever they can get. The problem is he's owed $13 million, so they might even have to eat, some or all of the contract if they're going to get anything for him. Other than that, it could be like Jed Wills. He played under the 5th-year contract and he walked. They didn't bring him back. So that could be the same thing with Newsome.
Okay. And then I know it's probably too early to get a prediction, but just want to let everybody know where they stand. The Browns stand as far as their win total mark. Looks like they're at over 5.5. At this point in time, what do you think? You think they're going over or under 5.5? Can you make that call, Fred?
Yeah, I've said I think they can win anywhere from 5 to 9 games. I would say they would go over 5.5. I'd say it might be 6 or 7.
Okay, so you actually are a little bit more optimistic than most people that the Browns could be not as bad as people think.
They weren't as bad as a 3-14. If we looked at the tape last year, we thought they were going to go beyond the first round of the playoffs. Maybe not to the Super Bowl, but had a good chance to go to the AFC Championship. If Deshaun Watson, we were expecting him to just play average to above average. And we all know He played abysmal, historically bad those first 7 games before he was hurt, and the season was over. They were 1-6. And I'll contend this the rest of the year. The players knew it, and they just played out the season. And you look, and Jameis Winston, that offense took off when he took over.
Yeah.
And then they benched him in favor of DTR and Bailey Zappi, and the offense went right back to how it did under Watson. So I feel at that point they were saying, you know, what good does it do to win a couple more games?
Yeah.
They would never say that,
Sure.
but to be 3-14 in the draft is better as opposed to being 5 or 6 and being in the middle of the pack. So I'm pretty sure they could have won a couple more games last year. So what I'm saying is I don't think they were as good as an 11-6 maybe the year before, and I don't think they were as bad as 3-14, but I think they're more in that middle-ish part, and a lot of it goes, you know, the early part of the season, you know?
Absolutely. Like you said, that schedule is really tough. It starts with Cincinnati week 1. Right now, they're a 5.5-point dog. The total, if anybody cares, is 44.5. The Browns, as you can see right here, are actually tied with the Saints as far as odds are. If you want to bet who's going to have the fewest regular season wins, the Browns are tied with the Saints, which I think, after what you just said, would not be a smart wager, as long as nothing, you know, out of whack happens, which it's the NFL, anything can happen, but we can't predict those things. So as long as everything's even, you just no way see the Browns as the team that ends up with the least amount of wins in 2025. That's good.
I've been wrong before.
Yeah, we all have, absolutely. So don't take our word for it and go to the.
There's talent on this team.
There is.
Well, like I said, this Judkins thing could really torpedo a lot of their plans, and I don't know, you know, outside of Sampson, what they can do to change it.
Well, we'll see how things go, because the main thing now is hopefully no more bad news off the field between now and through the preseason and all that. And if that happens, then hopefully they could put this bad news to start kind of the new season away, and everybody can forget it, move on. So a lot's going to depend on the leadership in that locker room, and we'll see if they've got that in order to survive and have themselves a better season than people think. And we're going to definitely look forward to talking to you during the season, Fred. And we've got links in the description right now of this video. You can check it out. You can follow Fred, whether it's his written work or podcast, or even just following him on X. So Fred, I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you again during the season.
Thanks, Greg. Always a pleasure, and look forward to it.
Excellent. Thanks, Fred.